Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining our July Climate Action Network event. This event today is being presented by Steve Kodad and focuses on integrating Feng Shui principles for climate action and harmony. So, my name is Pam Allen, and as a member of the Climate Action Network, I'll be moderating today's session. Just a quick note, this session will be recorded and is being streamed on Workplace, The World, the DEI Auditorium, and our EXP DEI YouTube channel. If you have any questions throughout the session today, let me read my notes. Slido, the link is being dropped into the comment section on YouTube. And if you're in the auditorium, look up on the left screen. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions there. Now, before I introduce Steve, a quick lowdown and a huge shout out for our EXP Climate Action Group. For those who don't know about us, we are also known as EXP CAN. Our group was launched actually 1 year ago in July of 2022, and we currently have 449 members. I actually had to go in and up that number just before this event today. It's really amazing that we've attracted so many people in just 12 months. Now, we're a community of EXP agents, staff, and partners who are enthusiastic. We're all enthusiastic about how can we care for the environment. Our goal is to provide a space to network, to educate others, to find collaboration and inspire climate action on all levels. So consider when you join our team, there are opportunities in leadership, graphic design, content creation, event coordination, project management, green building, sustainability, so much, so much. So please check us out on Workplace. Our mission is to help EXP Realty become a global leader in sustainability and climate action. And we need you. And one of the ways we're doing that, of course, is by hosting these monthly events. Feng Shui. So we go, what is it and how will it make this world a more beautiful place for those who practice it? Now, Steve Kodak, our guest presenter today, is a Feng Shui master, mentor, and teacher. He's been featured on PBS. He's an author and a national speaker. And he helps people improve their lives, change their environments, their habits, and even their career. So with that said, thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure, Pam. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. So I would like to ask you a few questions too, before I turn the floor over to you. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Perfect. So my first question to you is why? Why are we talking about Feng Shui today?
Well, simply Feng Shui really wouldn't even be in existence if it wasn't for the way the philosophy looks at the topology. It was created thousands of years ago to start and has been added on to, but it used the lakes, the mountains, the trees, and all that kind of stuff to develop a particular safe environment for people. So that is really how it got started. So it started with nature, and it really, in a lot of ways, still is with nature.
Thank you. It sounds so simple, yet very powerful where it goes. Now, one more question is, what's one message that you hope people will walk away with from your topic today?
Well, there are an awful lot of things that Feng Shui will do for a person or their family. but I really want to make sure that they understand probably the three most important things that Feng Shui does for you and that you should take away from this is comfort is a big thing in Feng Shui, success, and even health. And health is something that maybe surprises some people, but it's a really big feature of Feng Shui. And if we don't take care of our environments in a particular way, people do become more ill and are less productive and all those kind of things. So it's important that you understand that health is a very important component of what we do.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I did read about talking about feng shui breathing, and I that took and how for our health talking about how breathing is so important, which we know, but there's a there. So I will let you be the expert on this, and I'm excited to give you the stage. I know you've got some presentation and slides to share with us, and I will check back with you later.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. Again, I want to thank Pam and the Climate Action Network for inviting me. This is going to be a lot of fun for me. This is definitely part of what we do in my school. I have a school called the Intrinsic School of Feng Shui. And when we developed it, this was one of the modules that I wanted to make sure was part of it. So we have a lot of different modules, but this is a very important thing. So to me, it really speaks to what the whole thing is about. Just a little bit about myself. I was a realtor in 3 states. In New Jersey, I was really part-time, so I don't I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I was teaching and coaching at that point. But most of my real estate career was in North and South Carolina. I've been teaching my whole life. I was the owner of a 34 agent real estate company in Charlotte, North Carolina, one time. I'm a certified Feng Shui professional with 3 designations, and I currently operate a home evaluation company using Feng Shui in Southwest Florida. And I'm currently working on my 4th book, and I don't know why I'm doing it, but I am. So the topics that we're going to be covering today are pretty much boiled down to these 4. We're going to talk about lighting, and that might surprise you a little bit, but Feng Shui has a lot to do with lighting. And I knew it was very important for me when I was a real estate agent that I lit the house correctly and made sure certain things stood out more than others. And the energy distribution, of course, is also very, very important to me and to my school. You're going to hear information about direction a little different than maybe what you have read in other Feng Shui books. Our school really looks at direction a little differently. And then you're going to find out throughout the whole presentation that we're trying to make sure that the environment is as natural as possible. Very, very positive feeling for everybody. All right, so probably one of your questions is this one: is Feng Shui and green what do they have in common? Well, to me, they have an awful lot in common, but again, I'm going to reduce it down to the idea of generating comfort for a human being by using the natural world in a very positive, effective way. And so that's what we're going to be covering quite a bit in the next hour. Now, Feng stands for wind, Shui stands for water, and there's 2 reasons why that's important. And in my classes, I always talk about wind and water as being the 2 most prevalent ways of moving energy around our planet. That's one way to look at it. But a second way is this way. Wind can be considered to be your breath, and water, of course, is water. And without either of those 2 things, human beings have an awful lot of trouble continuing. So Feng Shui stands for wind and water. So, green buildings are designed a little differently, aren't they? And we're trying to make sure that we impact the environment in a very positive way, and it also affects human health in a lot of ways. Yeah, we're going to be talking about efficiently using energy, water, and other resources. But we're going to keep coming back to the idea of making sure that you and your loved ones are going to stay healthy. I think, and I use a definition with my students of Feng Shui being a very ancient environmental science. And depending on what book you pick up, it's 4,000 years or older, and it has changed dramatically over the years, believe it or not. So we're going to start off with the idea of how we use light. And we're going to talk about it in different ways. And again, you might not think of Feng Shui this way, but it's a really important aspect of how we stay healthy, how we are productive, and so forth. You might not have known this, and I didn't know this either until I found this. My school likes to look at different studies and research. So we try to back up things in our classes. And here's one of them. If every American home replaced just one light bulb with an Energy Star qualified bulb, we would save enough energy to light more than 3 million homes for a year and save a lot of money. So it's a very shocking thing to think about. Light bulbs have changed drastically, but some of us are not keeping up with that. And so hopefully through this presentation, you're going to find out that there's a way to really make things a lot more positive for you and for our environment too. Feng Shui, all schools of Feng Shui, and there are several different schools, promote the use of natural sunlight. Yeah, we definitely talk a lot about artificial light too. And for example, when I talk about taking care of a classroom in our schools, to me, the lighting in a classroom is quite negative. But let's go back to natural sunlight. It is the best way to always show a home. It's the best way to feel our best. So we want to make sure we play up the natural sunlight. Again, I'd like to do a lot of studies, so you're going to see some research. And here is one which compared interior offices to offices that were welcome or lucky enough, I should say, to have a corner office or had an office that had its own windows. They found out that the health situation was very, very different. The people in the interior got more ill, were out more, were less productive. And the folks that actually had windows and were in touch with the natural situation outside were so much happier. And again, they were present more and more productive. So the placement of windows in a home and an office is pivotal. And I would like to encourage anybody that is into the building aspect to think about that. Looking at direction, looking where the sun comes up and where it comes down is important. Here's a study that I always quote about the country of Germany and Netherlands. They have this requirement, which might blow your mind, that every office worker needs to be within 10 meters or 10.9 yards of a window to get some of this daylight for each worker. And to stay with that, there are some companies in Germany, believe it or not, that even go further than that. They tell their employees that, hey, look, you can get up every hour and walk by a window and look outside. They understand the connection. They understand how important this is for a human being. You and I are wired this particular way to really, really want a connection with the natural world. And the natural world in some ways is starting to get worse and worse, as you already know. Another thing that happened in 1993, Walmart put up a very special building in Oklahoma. They designed it with half of it being daylighted by skylights and the other half by artificial light. And then they looked at the sales. And surprisingly, well, maybe not, their sales were a lot higher in the half of which was taken care of by daylight, by skylights. People actually migrated towards that part of the building much more. So if builders would take this into account, they'd understand that the more natural light we can put into an environment, the more productive we will be. Now, there are a lot of light bulbs out there, and at one time, as you probably know, a lot of the fluorescent lighting was quite poor. And it has been improved dramatically, dramatically. And we're getting closer and closer to what's called 100 CRI, our color rendering index. Okay. And I try to tell a lot of folks that are in the real estate business, at least do this. Go into the really most strategic rooms. And if they don't have a light bulb that is fairly close to natural sunlight, replace at least a few of the light bulbs, and it'll make it a much more positive environment. People will stay a little longer, feel a little better. And in real estate, that's really what it's all about. You want them to stay long. So natural sunlight is now easier to produce with our light bulbs. Now, you probably have seen the picture on the left-hand side quite a bit in your lifetime. I know I have. Again, I taught for about 15 years in public and private schools. And I have to admit there were times that I went home with a headache, not always from the students, I promise you, but sometimes it was from the lighting. The lighting is quite harsh, and we don't look terribly good under it either sometimes. So putting a covering like you see on the right-hand side over it can have a positive effect. And as you're going to see on the next slide, you can actually make it even better looking by bringing in the outside. I love using photos and paintings of the outside. It makes us feel so much better. We have this connection that we can't sever. We don't want to sever. So here's a fancy way to do it. So there are a lot of different aspects of being natural. And here's another study that I want to share with you that I think you'll find quite interesting. This was done in the state of Wisconsin, and they used satellite data to do this. They found out that people that live in parts of Wisconsin with less than 10% tree canopy were much more likely to be depressed, stressed, and anxious, and even the cancer increased too. So they found out that when you're closer to parks, if you have more landscaping in your yards, if you have these great views, it makes you feel so much better. So anything that we can do to keep this situation positive for everybody, it'll really, really help us so much. So really, the more green space where you live, the happier you seem to be. And I'm going to be saying this a few times because I know a lot of you are definitely interested in the real estate component. Folks are always looking for that fourth bedroom, or they're looking to be close to the school. But sometimes I think what they should be looking for that's more important to help their family grow and be successful is something like this. Make sure there are trees. Make sure there's access to parks. Make sure wherever you pick is a much more positive environment. Sure, that fourth bedroom is important, but sometimes this is much more important. Now, you've probably heard of the idea of qi, and I always break it down into three ways, and we're always trying to make it as natural as possible. And I tell my students we stay away from the one on the left, which is extremely forceful. It's unusable in that way. So the kind of qi that we bring into our buildings, folks, we want to make sure we can use it, that it's under control. And the one on the right, we don't want either. So that's poor qi also, anything that gets stagnant. So we're always looking for the qi that we bring into our environments, whether it's our home or our office, is going to be in a meandering pattern like you see in the middle. Now, we don't have the time for me to show you how to take care of a straight sidewalk, but there are ways to do it without digging up the sidewalk, I promise. But we're always trying to get the energy coming into our buildings in a very positive, under control way. So this also might surprise you. Feng Shui really looks at things a little differently. The land or the lot is more important than the house or the building. So if the lot is positive, if the lot is facing in the right way to take advantages of nature, okay, and if certain things are also apparent, it is really so much more important for us on a health basis. Now, I tell my classes all the time, this is one of the most important slides I will ever talk to you about in Feng Shui. So I've been using that picture on the left-hand side forever and ever because it represents perfectly what really brought about the philosophy, you might say, or this science, this environmental science. If you look at the mountain on the left-hand side, they would put their house or their temple or whatever a third to halfway up that mountain thousands of years ago. They would be searching out for a place like this. But that wasn't enough. They also were looking to the sides where you might say the armrests are. They wanted to have trees or smaller hills on the left and the right. But then finally, they wanted to be able to look and see for a long distance to see what was coming their way. Thousands of years ago, it made an awful lot of sense that you knew what was coming your way because you had to be able to prepare for it, whether it was somebody that wanted to harm you or maybe even the weather. So this classic armchair idea is used in Feng Shui over and over and over, outside and inside. So we place our furniture this way too. So the mountain in the back, I always refer to it as the mountain, gives us this extra support, this extra security. And it makes us feel, hey, we're okay. And the sides, again, they also give us some protection. And then once we have able to see what was coming our way, it really is very helpful. So again, this is hugely important. You understand how we use the topology and how everything developed from it. Now, where I am in Southwest Florida, we don't have any mountains. But when I'm referring to a mountain, I'm not really talking specifically about a real mountain. So what we have in behind our houses, or what I want to have behind a house that I'm selling or helping to sell, I want to use landscaping or walls and fences. We are wired to feel much more comfortable in a setting like this. Probably every one of you have sold a brand new home at one time or another. Okay, and you noticed in the back of it, it was just open plains and there was nothing behind it. That is not a comfortable feeling for any of us. So when you get the mountain in the right place, when you get this situation going, right away, you feel more supported, but it also gives you more privacy. So you got to get the mountain correct. And when you're trying to sell somebody's house, you'll find this is a big advantage if you're showing at least the possibility of this. Now, this is probably going to make you chuckle a little bit. And the lot hopefully can be a rectangle, but again, that's another story. But believe it or not, if your yard, your lot does not have a lot of critters running around, they know, and now you know that it's not got good feng shui. I don't care if it's a snake or a butterfly or whatever. If they don't show up on a consistent basis, they know that something's off, okay? So therefore, again, we want to make sure that our environments from the land into the house are both being taken care of correctly. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about direction now so you understand how my school uses it. And to me, it's a much more basic way. Yes, we use a compass, but we don't use it the way some of you might be thinking, okay? So we're going to make sure that the sun benefits us. Yep, this is definitely part of something that I always am pushing, the idea of using the sun for energy. And I'm sure a lot of you out there feel the same way, that why we don't take advantage of this or we don't take advantage of wind and water. I have no idea. It's definitely going to happen someday, maybe even in my lifetime, but it certainly maybe in most of yours. So it is good feng shui that we use the sun, very much so. So again, direction is real important in feng shui, and also when you're thinking about green. Now, you probably every once in a while have somebody in your car that has, hey, look, I got to be facing northwest or whatever, or the bedroom has to be this direction. That is definitely part of some schools of feng shui. That really takes a back seat with what we do in our school. So we think of it this way: we want to make sure that we take into account where the sun is coming from and where the wind is coming from. And this is much more important on a month to month basis throughout the year. So if you haven't already figured this out, we're going to talk about plants, and we're going to talk about plants quite a bit here. The types of plants that hold in the heat in the winter and also keep the cold in during the summer are very pivotal for you. And your clients are going to love you for this, because if you get them to do the right thing, it will create a savings on their heating bills and their cooling bills. So we're going to talk about location of trees a little bit, the type of trees. And this is what we bring about in our school of intrinsic. Shocking statistic here, I would think. A well-positioned tree can save up to 25% of your home's energy for heating and cooling. So why are we cutting down trees? Even in my development, people are still cutting down certain trees because they don't want to mess with leaves coming off of it. We do have some trees that lose their leaves here, even in Florida. So instead of thinking about really what the importance of that tree is, and that it's also the home for a lot of critters, they cut it down because they don't want, I guess, to pick up the leaves or whatever. Trees are so important. I know you know that already. But remember this statistic. So a single shade tree placed well equals the cooling power of 15 air conditioners, which is shocking to me, at least. We're also going to talk about something called a windbreak, and it plays very well into our school of feng shui because of the mountain that I was mentioning to you in the classic armchair. So a windbreak can cut winter heating bills by 10 to 30% also. So using landscaping is going to help you immensely, and it's going to help your clients immensely. So we take the time when we walk and do an evaluation, myself and my partner. We look at the sun, we look at where the wind is coming from. We have a pretty good idea of things. So when we're talking about a windbreak, there are different types of windbreaks. Certainly height can be important, but what's really important is actually the depth to the whole thing. One row of trees is okay, two is much better, but three is the best way because it really creates a strong buffer from allowing the wind to get through. So we try to plant windbreaks more in the north and northwest side, but sometimes we need to use it on other sides too. So again, landscaping is so important to feng shui, and it's probably very important to your clients. And you can bring them a very important plus here by mentioning things like security and privacy with that mountain behind them. But it's also going to create a feeling internally of security and comfort. We talk a lot about the unconscious feeling of people. Whether you know it or not, 95% of your decisions really happen there. All of your experience is waiting to help you with your decisions. But also the landscaping is going to help you with the energy and save you dollars. But it also is used in feng shui to attract more of the very, very important nourishing qi into our house. So again, a windbreak is a benefit for green reasons, as you can imagine. but it's also a big benefit for Feng Shui also, as you're going to see. Now, here's a person who really, really took care of the situation beautifully. You can notice that on all sides, he has at least a double layer of trees, and he even has 3 layers up at the top left. He knew where the problems were, so he definitely took advantage of that situation. So a windbreak, again, will save an awful lot of dollars, but it's also going to give you more comfort because it's going to cut the wind speed by, in many cases, as much as 85%. So let's save some money and let's be more comfortable. Why not? That's Feng Shui. We want to be comfortable. So this one probably is perfect to get the point across. The evergreens are going to be planted in the back. Why? Because they don't lose their leaves. Okay, so it's going to be much more difficult for the wind to get through them. But it also is going to stand the test of time. It's going to create that mountain. It's not going anywhere. If I put the deciduous trees back there, in the winter, they're going to lose their leaves. So I've lost the privacy. We've lost some of the security. So the deciduous trees are going to be up in front or on the sides more, and they're going to be planted in a strategic way to help us with making it more comfortable during the summer. So there's your mountain in the back. And again, we're going to plant some trees in a very smart way up front. And you can see by this particular picture, without that buffer, that house is not going to feel quite as comfortable. If that buffer wasn't there, those 30-mile-per-hour winds would come right straight towards the house and create a problem for us. And you can imagine what that would be like in the winter. But with the buffer, with the windbreak, it has to go over top. And by the time it gets towards the house, hopefully it goes over top and slows down dramatically. But even the wind that's coming through the buffer has been slowed down considerably. Very, very important aspect for some people. So here's a strategy for you. When I'm talking to people in the Northeast and the Midwest, I really want to take advantage of the sun's heat during the winter as much as I can. And I'm going to show you some pictures in a moment to get the point across. But again, we're going to plant the deciduous trees on the south and west facing sides, and we get that double duty. So that leafy canopy will shade your house and help to keep it cooler. So here's the summer. I created this picture using certain little things coming off of Google, and I think it made the point pretty well. You can see the Everglades in the back of the house. That's your mountain. That's your security. That's your buffer, okay? So we feel secure now. We feel a little bit more privacy. But then the shade trees are going to protect some of the windows that are the most important and keep it cooler. So in the summer, this is what we want. And then on the next slide, we're going to see what it looks like in the winter. The sun is lower in the sky, okay? Old Man Winter is behind our buffer, our mountain right now, doing its best thing to try to make us uncomfortable. But we've handled the situation because of how we've used the windbreak. Now, why would the deciduous trees losing their leaves at this point be advantageous? Well, again, the sun is low. We're not getting as much heat by no means. But isn't it nice to have the sun come into our windows during the winter anyway? It heats it up a little bit, but the nice thing is it sort of increases our energy and makes us feel a lot better. Now, it's possible, the house that you might be working on might have it in reverse. And I like when I'm talking to somebody about buying a new house. In Feng Shui, we do talk with people all the time where they bring us out and say, what do you think of this house? What do you think of this one? And we'll give our advice to them. But I got my compass now. I'm looking at the situation. So in this case right here, this is an existing house. They live here. I can't change that. They have somewhat of a problem to me. So the evergreens are on the opposite end of things. So I'm going to lose the leaves in the back whether I like it or not. And you can see on this picture, this is what's going to happen. So hopefully this will work for you. But quite often in the Northeast and in the Midwest and so forth, it's possibly not. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, moved to New Jersey to take my first teaching job. So I'm used to snow, I'm used to wind, I'm used to that kind of stuff. And it's not terribly comfortable. So finding the correct house, again, is a lot more than making sure you have that fourth bedroom to put all your boxes in. All right, so again, bring your compass, explain, have a spiel that you can use to talk to your clients. They'll appreciate it. You can tell them, hey, look, we're going to show you how to save money on your utility bills. And at the same time, you're going to make sure you're very, very comfortable too. Here's a surprise for some of you probably. A water feature placed in the right place can actually help cool off your house somewhat. So you might have a large pond, maybe with koi in it or whatever. But if it's upwind, it'll noticeably cool the air of your landscape in the summer. A small pond or a fountain can cool a smaller area, like you're going to see on the next one. So in Feng Shui, we use a lot of water fountains. When I'm trying to sell a house, I actually put a small water fountain in the foyer area because of what it does for the five senses. Feng Shui is a lot about the five senses. I want to get them right. I want it to have the right temperature. I want to have the right music if I'm going to be using it. I want to make sure all the five senses are right. So you can imagine when you walk into a house like this and they're hearing that running water, it's a very peaceful sound and really helps to create the introduction to the house. So again, direction is important. And I'd like to tell designers and builders, you need to spend a lot more time thinking about window placement when you're building a house and building orientations. Boy, would that help you so much. It would help you to sell the house faster. But then when they pick up and move, they'll sell it faster too. And if you're the real estate agent, you're going to come off as a hero because you've thought of every little thing. Another thing that I try to do when I'm trying to help somebody to purchase a home or live in a home in a more positive way, what do you see out of the windows? The view is so pivotal. It's really an extension of your house. And a lot of folks don't think of it that way. And therefore, they're looking out on something that doesn't make them feel good. It's very, very positive if you're trying to sell a house that you do it this way, that you walk by every window, see what they're going to see when they visit your listing, and try to correct it somewhat. Whether it's to put a bench outside with some flowers, or have a garden, or have a fountain, put something positive out there. But even if you're not selling, can you think of how positive this makes you feel when you're living in a place like this, that it's a lot of joy and positive energy when you look out your windows? EMF, electrical magnetic fields. I was telling you earlier that Feng Shui is considered in most cases over 4,000 years old. Certainly EMF was not part of what they were thinking about then. But in Feng Shui now, we think about a lot of things to make sure that somebody is going to stay healthy. So we correct as much as we can the problem of electrical magnetic fields. Here's a family that I sort of joke about, that they probably haven't talked to each other since Saturday. And I even named her Apple and him Wi-Fi just to get my point across. A lot of us are really sort of stuck in this type of environment. We don't get outside as much as we need to. We don't go to those parks that I want them to have. So getting off of all of these gadgets is a very important thing. I mean, I use my gadgets too, just like you do. but you need to make sure that your family is getting outside and getting some of that natural sunlight that I'm talking about. So there's a lot of problems when you run into a home that has EMF. And I'll show you my monitors in a moment. Myself and my partner, we both have monitors that check the exposure. I'm mostly concerned about the EMF exposure behind a bed. But when there is a high amount of EMF, and we have it in a lot of our homes because of all these gadgets, all these so-called smart homes, that our sleep is disturbed, we have headaches, some people become depressed, there's a more fatigue and a lack of concentration and so forth. None of us want those kind of things happening. So I'll tell you a quick story before we show the monitors, but I went into one home and all I did was take their electric clock and move it off to the side about 6 inches, and then my meter would not go off like crazy. That's all you needed to do. But they used to have the clock right next to their head, which is a health problem and something that can easily be taken care of. Certainly we have a problem like this, as you all know. It's one of the reasons why, we're here. But EMFs can pass through walls and floors and even the human body. It looks like the only thing they can't penetrate is something like lead. So trying to keep your family safe, to me, is very, very important. We take it very seriously. So here's a picture of a lot of appliances that give off an awful lot of this stuff. You probably don't think about it. Mom and dad probably told you, don't get too close to the TV. Well, it's worse than ever now. So don't get too close. Don't let your kids, sit in front of the TV for long periods of time. If you're going to sit there for hours and hours, you're going to be affected. Okay. If you're on your computer for long, long periods of time without taking a break, you're going to be affected somewhat. So keep it in mind that EMF can actually affect you. We have too much of this going on. So here's another example of some things that you might want to take into account. Okay. A lot of us spend too much time on our mobile phones. And I try not to carry my mobile phone into certain places so that I get away from it as much as I can. I never take it into a restaurant. I never take it into a grocery store. I leave it in the car. Okay. I know for some of you that's impossible because of what you do now, but you got to understand, you got to get away from it a little bit. Turn it off at night would be to your benefit. Now this gives you an example of the meters. They're very inexpensive if you want to buy them. I am sure Amazon will sell you one very easily, but you can find them all over the internet. But those have been very handy for me. It's one of my first passes I take through a home when I'm doing an evaluation. I want to find out if we have any EMF problems. With older homes, you'll find out with the wiring and stuff, that's a little more of a problem. Older refrigerators, it's a little more of a problem. So I'm sure you're not going to stand in front of a refrigerator for hours and hours, but certainly where you put your head at night for 7 or 8 hours is very, very pivotal. So if that wall behind your headboard is hot, you better really seriously think about it. There are some cures, but it can be a problem for you health-wise. I am a big proponent of bringing nature inside, and I have a lot of people that always ask me this. Can I use plastic flowers or use fake flowers? I said, sure, you can use them bring them to some degree if the home is a vacant home, and they will help with respect to some of the aspects of Feng Shui. But live plants will bring you so much more than that kind of stuff. They'll bring in extra energy. They'll take care of a lot of other things as you're about to see. So live plants raise the energy in an area, but they also clean the air. So we're going to talk a little bit about toxins a little bit and make sure you understand that live plants can help you so much inside too. In Feng Shui, we always try to bring the outside in as much as we can. But we also use them to soften sharp edges, which we call poison arrows. So plants are used for so many things. Live plants will really, really help you. Here's one that I highly recommend, and I use it especially in certain rooms, as you can see here, the peace lily. Now, the peace lily, as you can see, removes things like alcohols and acetone and benzene and formaldehyde, and it is a really great plant to work with. And one of the greatest things about it is it's so easy to care for. I use a plant like this for a lot of things. You're only getting probably half of it. So it takes care of toxins, these toxins, and it raises the energy at the same time. A Boston fern, we see a lot of these in offices. Okay, so they really, really help a lot. Again, they take care of things like formaldehyde, and they really work really well, beautifully too. And I think I only got one more here to show you, but these plants, well, I guess that was it. But there are so many plants that we talk about in our training that can help you so much. A lot of the ferns work for different things. So don't forget, there are toxins in our environments that can be really, really handled really well if we bring plants into our office or into our home. So indoor plants help to reduce stress. These are things that have been proven by studies. They reduce tension and anxiety. They drop the depression rate. They decrease anger, and so forth. They also increase productivity. So if you're a team leader or a broker in charge or whatever, understand that plants really actually motivate us in a lot of ways. You go back to that study I was telling you about in Germany. Those people understood that plants being brought in really helped people be more productive and stay at work. And an extremely important aspect of things is reduce sickness. This is always a big thing with respect to the bottom line for any industry, any business. People having to go home or stay at home because they're ill. So if you can keep them from being sick or being ill, you can imagine your productivity goes up. Everything is improved in a great number of ways. But it's also extremely attractive to people and visitors. So if you also hire people, when you have an office that is attractive and that has plants in it, you'll find out that people will want to work there more than they will want to work in a very sterile environment. Now, I'm going to show you some sterile environments in a moment, but I want you to understand it's important that you understand that this can actually increase the type of people that you hire. Again, it cleans the air, it gets rid of those toxins, but it also reduces noise levels. I don't have any idea what type of office you work in. I don't know if you even continue to go into offices or you work from home. But, these open bullpens where you have not too much of a buffer between people, it can get to be very noisy in those situations. But it also boosts your creativity. And we all need that to be as creative as possible. So whatever we're going to turn out is going to be picked up, and hopefully people are going to call us. This is not what I'm talking about. Feng Shui is about staying away from extremes. This is an extreme. This is like a jungle. Okay. This person or persons have decided to go totally the other direction. I'm not talking about this. This is crazy. But so is this. Okay. So we want to make sure that we do this in a particular way. Now, I want to give you a sort of a visualization for a second. If you know what the Tai Chi symbol is, the yin yang symbol that has the black half and the white half, and it's separated by a meandering line, okay? Meandering line, natural, okay? Notice there are two halves to it. One is not bigger than the other. We stay away from extremes. Once you get to extremes in any environment, you're going to find out that you're going to hurt the sale of a property. You're going to hurt your comfort in your own home. But you can actually have it at your own desk. Here's somebody loves their plants, but this is going to hurt their productivity. Things are going to get in the way. So even in your own desk, and you probably know people like this, where they've gone way too overboard, even in their own little work area. But you can also go the other way. Here's a real sterile environment. We do not want that situation either. This doesn't encourage anybody. It doesn't raise the energy. It doesn't keep us healthy. So you definitely don't want to go lean either. So those are both extremes. Stay away from them. Here's another extreme. I can imagine this lady. I can see she's put her purse there. She's going to come back and start working. She's come into the office. This is what she has to look at, a blank wall. Okay. This can't be terribly motivating for her. So again, if you are a team leader or whatever, you want to make sure that you're always encouraging people to be their very best and to work at it. And no matter how long they're in the office, that they really focus and do really good work. So here's one idea, okay? Certainly you can see the plants in there. Definitely, if you can, you keep them live, okay? Again, for so many reasons, as I've already repeated to you. But what you put on the wall is also pivotal in Feng Shui. If you're just putting up black and white or no photos at all, you got a problem. So don't do that either. Now, some of you might think this is overboard. I think this is about right, okay? So here's an office that certainly you're going to be able to see a plant within a few feet from you all the time. And again, these plants are going to keep you healthier. They're also going to encourage you. So this is what I'm looking for more in an office setting than some of the other examples that I've given you. And then here's one that's pretty positive with just one desk. And finally, here's a normal situation. Okay, they got one plant. Wow. Okay. And again, it's very sterile, not very motivating. Let's go to the next slide and show what happens now by putting something up on the walls. I like using posters and pictures that show nature too, very much. Sometimes that's all I can do. And if you'll do it one more time for me. Again, plants will also be very encouraging too. So I hope that gives you a much better idea of what you want to do in your space at your office or at home. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed that. I would love to be able to answer any questions that you might have. And thank you for showing up.
Wow. Wow, Steve. I found myself taking notes, and then I realized I can go back and watch this again. There was so right. There was so much value content, and I have a ton of critters in my yard, like sometimes too many, but I think I'm onto something. Let me ask you a question that did come up, okay?
Sure.
I wrote it down, so let me see. What are some positive visual cues? And now I think I could answer this, but I want you to. Visible cues can one implement into their living space to encourage climate habits?
Okay. That's a great question, and one that I run into a lot. Depending on how open a client might be for me, it might be just bringing plants in. But in a lot of cases, think of the vision board idea. Feng Shui is a lot about seeing something over and over and over, and it imprints that idea into your mind, and you just naturally progress towards that. So I love using nature in prints and paintings and stuff like that as a reminder of the beauty of Mother Nature. So that's how I would do it. But if you can, you bring in plants too. That'll really handle the situation.
Mm, thank you. And another question we had is, how can feng shui help integrate into our homes ideas for waste reduction and and efforts to recycle?
Okay. Well, again, if you've ever picked up a feng shui book, probably one of the first words you've ever seen was clutter. And
Mm,
clutter is something that is considered a four-letter word in feng shui. So we're always pushing our students, pushing our clients into becoming organized as much as possible. So getting rid of certain things, maybe a lot of certain things, is a very pivotal thing. One of the things that I talk to people about in my real estate certification class is the idea about making sure that you right away are making up your mind, I am moving. So you get the boxes out right away and you start uh, packing them away and putting them into storage sheds. Or this might sound funny, but I also have people who are they have stuff in their bathroom to get themselves ready for the day. I have them put them into a box before they go to work, and they put it in their trunk of their car, and they drive to work with all of their their stuff that they've used to get themselves ready. I want surfaces clean. So getting organized is extremely important. Getting rid of clutter is very important.
very good. Thank you. We have about 4 minutes left, and I want to take this time to just recognize you again for bringing such a valuable content to us, and also to encourage people to learn more about EXP Climate Action Network. Do check us out on Workplace. Say, raise your hand. I'd like to know more. I'd like to have a conversation with one of you all to learn where I best fit. And Steve, once again, how can people reach out to you and learn about hiring you or someone who's a feng shui expert or becoming one themselves and starting a career?
Okay, the best way, I have a couple of websites, but the one that I would direct you to would be www.the Feng Shui Shui cure.com, the Feng Shui Cure. And you'll find out all the information about the real estate certification on there and how it leads into further if you wanted to do that. But we're having our next and last class on August the 9th, and we'd love to have you. I've reduced the price slightly, and we're hoping to have a very large group. I'm doing a class right now. We're almost finished with this one. So go to the website. It has all the information you need right there. You can contact me off the website, and that's probably the best way right there, Pam.
Oh, there it is on our
There it
screen.
is.
Look at
Wow.
that. Look at
Miraculous.
that. Um, Terrific. And if anybody has questions that come to mind, feel free to find me and reach out. I'll get them to Steve or reach out directly to Steve. And we just really appreciate everybody taking the time today to join us or taking the time to watch this on our DEI YouTube channel at another time that worked for them. So I think with that, we're going to call ourselves complete for our hour together, Steve. And
Okay.
thank you to my team and my colleagues and everybody behind the scenes that's making
Right.
this possible for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.